Waiting. Nice. Alright. Everything looks good. Hopefully I got some video coming through. Very good. Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another week of me trying to figure out FPV drones and how to fly and what I'm doing with it and why I'm doing it. I am once again joined with my brother. I'm bringing you in now.
Both need sleep,
there we go.
I don't think you even introduced me properly there.
My brother, Steven. Hopefully. We're in our third week. Everyone should be watching everything we do, right? They should just know by now. No, my name is Nate Hibbert. I am just figuring out hobbies that I like to do, and Steven, my brother, has encouraged me to just show the process, which I think is really good for me, because I think I'm a natural teacher. At least that's the way I lean. So while I'm learning new things, I like to teach them, and then it kind of cements it in my brain. And he's just a good person to kind of give me that shove to do this in front of the camera instead of just all in my own head. So I appreciate him. He's very necessary to the process, even though he might just be there making fun of me. Those are kind of the kicks in the butt that I need at times. So welcome to the show, Steven. How's that for an intro?
Better, much better.
Good. All right. So we're back this week with just some more lessons that I learned. Right before we went live, I was like, this might be a rough show. Might only go for 30 minutes because I just had a lot of technical difficulties this week with some of the memory cards that I had. So we can jump into that a little bit later. It is me, another week of Nate making excuses, so we're right back at it. But something else I was telling Steven right before we went live is like, this FPV thing is like for real. Like, you really got to put some time, effort, and energy into this. I was thinking it was going to be all hunky-dory once I got my goggles and my controller and all the setup ready to go. But
not as easy as you thought.
No, it's a little bit more involved than just having the gear. So that's like my realization for this week. I tried to put some more hours into like flying and even putting more hours into the sim because the weather here in Atlanta has been kind of crappy this week. But yeah, I really don't feel like I got better this week, which is sad because it was a couple like late nights just like trying to get into a groove and jamming, and I was like, man, I am bad at this. Like, my brain is not picking this up. So I think the goal for next week is to like actually look at some training instead of just trying to like willy-nilly learn how to fly through the sim without like actually thinking through steps. And even possibly like challenging myself a little bit more. I really need, like I said, I just need to put the time in and like take this thing seriously, because if I don't like actually like record, sorry, I'm saying like a lot. If I don't record what I'm doing and like push myself and challenge myself and actually set milestones, then I think this is just going to be like a fun toy that's kind of on the shelf, but I'm not actually going to learn how to like fly and do anything that would have any value or that anyone else would care to, learn or look at. So if that is my goal, ultimately, is just to share my experience, not only learning FPV, but once I get somewhat good at it, actually share it with people, friends and family, and whoever else wants to see what FPV drones are all about, then I need to put some more effort into this thing rather than, let me just, throw on the simulator and fly around and goof off for a little bit. So
your goal is just to share the experience? You want to become good enough to involve other people?
That is what's pushing me right now. I think as I get better, my hope is that I find kind of a pathway or something else, whether it's like building the drones or something else about the hobby that would intrigue me. But definitely like the kind of the carrot on the stick, if you will, is just sharing this experience with other people. Just as much like jokes that Kate has about me horribly flying around and just like how fun of like a social thing it is. I think that doing that with more friends and more family, and hopefully getting some of my friends here in Atlanta at least interested enough to like watch me fly around would be my goal for it right now. But I expect that to change.
You're just trying to get better. So I guess as an older brother, how do you quantify getting better? Yeah, I guess how do you rank your skills now, and it's probably even good to come up with like some fake rating system for yourself to like, what are the most used maneuvers. I know a little bit about flying.
Hold on, I know where you're going with this, and my analogy, the first analogy that just popped in my head is like, you know, the guys who go to the air shows and don't even know the names of the jets. Like, that's the level I'm at as a pilot right now. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the F-16, right? Just to every jet that flies by. So that would be my level, like below novice, because I don't even know like proper terminology still.
So okay, you know, MMA, that's like the only thing that I know that has like a system. Mm-hmm. Well, not really MMA, but karate or Muay Thai or I can't even speak because I'm so tired.
Yeah.
Anything with a belt, there are levels to gaining those belts. Is there a possible belt-like system that we can create so we can track your progress?
Yeah, I guess off like the military theme more.
Ooh, interesting.
Just because like that's okay. You know, where actual pilots get kind of ranked.
This. Yeah.
What is it, like a white shirt?
What are the military? Why don't you screen share? We could do this on camera. What are the military rankings for the Air Force? Private? Is that like the first? That's boot camp?
I was thinking of like Drumline, you know, when he says you are a crab, you are as blank as the white shirt you wear, or whatever. That's how I feel right now. Let's see. Air Force. Airman Basic. Yeah, I don't know. This is a little too technical language.
Is there like a
senior airman, staff sergeant, Yeah, we need to gamify this a little bit more than just straight ripping off the military.
What do they just tell you how much they make too?
Major. Oh, I wasn't even looking over here.
Wow, they make 76. Oh, that's per year. Oh, they start by per month and then they jump to per year.
At the end, they go back to per month though. A general. All right. Yeah, I think this is not exactly. I see where you're going, but I think this is not exactly the direction we want to go.
What is that tiered system for belts called?
I have no idea. Like karate belt ranking? What's the order of belts in karate? White, yellow, orange, green. I think this needs a little bit more brainstorming. Oops.
Right? Like belts or military.
Yeah, I like where you're going with it. So again, this is just to challenge myself, and if anyone wants to follow along at home, something that you could do. Like once you get all your gear, now you're a white shirt or whatever terminology we use.
Yeah, I guess the boot camp could even be like just buying that stuff. I do like this idea of gamifying this whole process. I think that's why I steamed out of me even being interested in drones, because it was like,
no, that's I
got the thing, and then I did everything that I feel like that drone was capable of.
Right. No, that's a very real thing. Because even I have a coworker who has that Maverick 2 Air. I just found out today, and he was talking about like, oh, I got to fly it like a couple weeks ago or whatever. And he has a Jeep, so he goes out like crawling, and uses the drone to like follow himself, which is cool. But like, how many of those videos can you really take? So he's
that's
just.
What I said. I feel like I'd be done with that rapidly.
Right, he's like burning out with it quickly, but he also buys a lot of technology. So I think he just like keeps going from one thing to the next, which I've definitely been guilty of in past. But that's why like now I'm trying to like the hobbies that I'm getting into are a little bit more than just like $100. So if I'm going to put this much money and effort like figuring out all this stuff, then I want to like know what I'm going to do with it. I think if you like see drone racing and you're like super into that and you're like, yes, this is what I want to do, then you have a clear pathway of like, I have to get all this stuff. I have to learn how to fly a little bit. Then I have to like learn how to race, which is just another level. And with racing, you're going to break stuff. So then you have to like learn how to solder and like actually fix it. So it's a little bit more of a clear pathway. But since I'm not interested in racing in the slightest as of right now, I'm trying to figure out like what is my end goal and how do I work up to that. But because I'm so new, I don't even know like what the end goals are. I have to kind of build it from where I'm at moving forward. So I'm building the plane as you're flying, which is something we're not strangers to.
Yeah, I guess if you asked a drone pilot that's making money with drones, would they call themselves a drone professional? Like what do they even in the industry call themselves?
That's a good question. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Does Mr. Steele ever say he's like a pro, or I don't know the terminology in any of this stuff.
Right. I think it's less about the drone and it's more about like the service you provide. So like if he's shooting a commercial, he just posted some stuff on his Instagram about like a super cool commercial he shot. And so I like on the commercial, I'm sure you're just called like the drone guy, but I'm sure there's an actual like title that would go around with that. Or if you're like doing real estate photography, then you would probably just like be under real estate photography, but just be like the drone side of that. So I don't know like how titles go for all that kind
That's
of stuff.
fine. I think gamifying this in a way like how the belts are, because I think if you're a black level or black belt in karate, you're not like there's no like job title for that, but you could be a teacher. So there could be a progression for like the earning money with the skill, but I think there is a lot of people that just enjoy learning and they like that learning on that like tiered process. So I think if you could create something for yourself that is a usable skill, like say you create a belted system that at the end it's like a pre-flight thing that you do. You want to, this is gonna get real ugly, hover. You're gonna want to loop the loop, figure eight. Like there must be some things that you want to do to like warm up to practice, because even flying this drone, like getting close to something in the house here was very different than getting close to something outside. Getting close to something up north when it was colder, the drone acted differently. So I'm sure there's some, you might want to ask, if you ever go to those meetups, what type of test flight they do before they really start like flying.
I'm sure just looking into like the racing stuff would probably.
Are there warm-up laps for that? Are they?
They've gotta
like
be
tricks for.
There's gotta be all that kind of stuff like built into the race scene already, like to get your fingers warmed up. Because even like competitive gamers, they do that, right? Like if you're playing a shooter, you go into like a pre-lobby and just practice your aim for a couple of minutes before you start.
Tricks inside of this? I'm sure there are, because just like that, like 360 no scope for Call of Duty, is there like levels of tricks? Because that might be like another like self-check where it's like, okay, I can hover now. Can I mean, this drone has like a bounce feature, some other flips and stuff like that. Right. So I wonder if those are like.
No, there are, but it's like I guess for control purposes, like just knowing how to do that stuff would be kind of like the mastery of the tricks. But I don't see a lot of them being applicable to the type of flying that I'm trying to do. I guess that's not necessarily true though, because I think those are kind of like the wow factor. So if I want people to like think what I'm doing is interesting, like having some of those tricks, even if they're not looking through the goggles, like that would be more interesting to watch than me just like exploring, some abandoned place or like, smoothly flying around and getting like cool shots or whatever else. So I guess that would be definitely not something I'm ready for right now. Actually, I did do a flip with the drone. I was trying that out just to see if I could even do it.
Did you run into something? Because I've done many flips with my drone.
No, so I've got to crack into the software a little bit because I realized that there's supposed to be like 3 different levels that the drone is set at. So there's one that's called like horizon mode or whatever, where it's supposed to just like keep itself pretty level and not allow you to flip. And so I was trying to see like if I can get into the other modes, but in all of the other settings, on this controller, I can show you guys real quick. On the controller, there's these switches up top. That are 3 position switches, and they're supposed to change what like mode the drone is in. But for me, it's not doing anything. I think because this controller and the drone aren't like paired outside of the box. So I think if I go into the software, I can change some of that. But I haven't actually cracked into any of that quite yet. So that's how I was testing it though. I was like, if I can do flips in all these settings, then clearly I don't have their horizon mode. And so I did actually do a couple of flips and catch it, which I was surprised with myself. So, yeah, there's that.
Do you feel like you have complete control over the drone?
No, not even
so
close.
Why are you trying flips? Just because that was...
and I was able to do it 3 times at least. And then I was like, all right, well, clearly I don't have this mode. Because I was wondering, like, if I'm on like the beginner setting of this drone and I'm having this much trouble controlling this thing, then there might be problems. But it looks like I'm on like the I think it's called like Acro Mode, which is kind of like there's no software that's helping you. Like you're in full control, which is good.
Interesting.
That's what I would prefer it to be on rather than like being locked into the horizon mode or whatever. But I'm just curious if I could, one, just for educational purposes for myself, if I could actually go into the software, change it so that 3 position switch actually does something. But 2, also to see if that would be easier for me to learn how to fly. Because all the flying that I've done right now is still indoors, like hovering and doing very small movements and adjustments is like what I'm interested in. But I've heard that it's way easier just to go to open field and start doing, bigger movements and just like learn how to fly straight and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, because it's just easier it's like riding a bike, right? Like you don't start off by doing trial runs or whatever they're called, where you're like jumping up on railings and all that kind of stuff from like a standstill position. Like you start by just riding in a straight line because the momentum will help you keep balance and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I think this level of progression, along with like what you learned during each one of these progression steps, or what you feel other people should achieve at that point, to where like you could do a flip but you don't feel like you're in control at all. Like I'm sure there's some progression to feeling of confidence too, where it's like the thing, maybe this simulator is a good example. Are there lessons inside of this that give you a pilot rating?
Probably the older one, or the later ones, which I haven't actually gotten to yet because I haven't done all the lessons. I did like 2 or 3 lessons for like an hour, just trying to like hone just like the wide sweeping turns left and right, and I was just like, it was so bad. Like I'm embarrassed to go back and do lessons anymore, just because of like how horrible I was even after like an hour, because they're like timed, so you like want to do them with speed. Oh, this is interesting. You can kind of like build your own map. So that's something that I was like, if I can, because that's kind of what I would do for like video games. When I started playing on the computer, I wanted to get better at aiming with the mouse, so I'd just go into like a place where I could aim and just do that for like an hour every day, and then I eventually got a little bit better at aiming. So that's kind of how I felt about this drone flying. Was like, if I can just find a map and find something that I'm trying to like get faster at because it's timed, then I will just do that every day for 30 minutes or whatever, and hopefully I'll start to pick it up. Oh boy. So yeah, it's still bad.
So I guess hearing you talk about that reminds me of like Gran Turismo back in the day, where you had to actually complete licensing test to
Mm-hmm.
be able to go to even do those races.
Right.
Is there anything in this game? There's like a qualifier before you can even join races or use the bigger drones or any of that stuff?
Not that I know of, and I don't think so. I think you have access to all of that stuff. I think because... Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to even speculate on that.
So if you can create your own course, is there a way to share, just like how you did that gun training? Because I know in like CSGO, people can create their own,
Right.
I don't even know what it's called, test.
Custom maps, I think they call them.
Yeah. Is there something like that you could do in here to where it's like, okay, this square, we're going to test to see if you can pass this
Right.
maneuver. This square, we're going to try to test if you can pass this maneuver. Just like how you were trying to fly up that, I don't even know what that was.
Yeah, a gate.
That ring.
Right. It appears so, just because of the way this is laid out. It looks like I can do all that kind of stuff. But I mean, that's kind of built into the training as well. But it would be interesting to build something for myself. Like the skills that I'm trying to work on this week. This is what I found, is a helpful gate or whatever for. But I really just need to practice like my turning smoothly.
You're getting pretty weeble wobbly.
Yeah. But that's what I was saying, like, I think I picked it up on Wednesday night, and even from Monday to Wednesday, I felt like so rusty. So I was like, oh, this is, like, that, I'm going to use the shooting just because that was another thing on the computer, but, like, that was something that I had to make a priority, like, every day for a while, just to make sure, like, okay, I'm going to get my 30 minutes in for today. So I think that's the direction I'm going to go this week. Is just like every day for at least 20 minutes, I want to be doing some type of flying on the simulator, because that's what it's going to take is like me. I'm sure everyone's not like this, but for me, that consistency I think is going to be really important. But let me stop this for 1 second and just give my excuses for the week. Of one, why there's no footage, which I did record and wanted, and I don't know what's going on, but I had 2 of those micro SD cards now that I've left in my computer, and I think that's the problem. If I leave them on my computer, like power cycle my computer too many times, they for some reason get corrupt. So I had one, and then I bought another one, and now I don't want to buy 2 more or another one. So I'm going to try and actually fix the 2 that I have. I did quickly look up some videos today of how to do that. So I'm going to try and do that this week and hopefully save those 2. If not, just format them completely, because even formatting them is not working. So I'm going to have to figure that out this week. So if last week, like, the win was just having all of the gear that I needed, like, this week the win is just knowing that there are going to be tech things that I have to be on top of. I also suspect, like, this is something that I've heard about that I haven't had too much experience with, is just charging of the batteries. Right now, I've just been charging them to full and draining them and then leaving them. And I think if you do that for like a couple of days, it's not that big of a deal. But long time storage, I've heard there's like a voltage you should have it at. So I need to get a voltage meter so I can see it without like plugging it in and turning on the goggles, because that's where it says the voltage. So learning more about the batteries, I assume at some point, maybe this week or next week, is going to have to be something that I do more learning on. So those are my excuses, is just the memory cards. But besides that, like the flying, like I said, I keep saying, is just like I need to be more consistent with it to actually get better. I think that's all I have to say about that. I don't know why I had to make it so dramatic. I just had to stop so I could think it through.
I know. I thought you were about to say something. It was like corrupted card, and you want another.
I think just now that you've got me thinking about like the challenges, and like in other business stuff that we've done, we've used the word like pre-flight checklist and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's kind of how my brain is starting to categorize this stuff. Like the first step of learning how to FPV like fly a drone, besides like watching people and seeing if you're interested in it, like once you pass that step, I think spending the $40 for this Beta FPV controller, and the $15 to $20 on a good simulator, is probably like the first $50 to $60 I would spend, period. Because this controller is at least nice enough to do like all the entry stuff with, and a simulator I think is always going to be useful, just because if it's raining outside or you broke something and you still want to like practice or whatever. Like I think having a simulator is just an amazing tool. So I think those would be like kind of the first steps, like get all the gear, then, or at least get the controller and the simulator, start flying that way. Then the next step would be like get the goggles, get the actual drone, and then where I'm at now is like kind of figure out all the techie stuff that you need to know, like how to not corrupt memory cards and how to properly charge batteries, are the two biggest things that I've run into right now. And then like the third week is actually getting like more stick time and challenging yourself, because just flying and crashing into stuff without like a clear direction to go, I think is going to get boring quickly. And I think that's what a lot of people who get into FPV drones like start doing. Like once you can kind of fly outside in a straight line, like if you're not pushing yourself or if you don't have that end goal of like I want to race, like I think you just kind of get burnt out. And that's why you see, you know, huge lots of FPV drone stuff going on Facebook Marketplace for like $200, because they're just like, I want all this crap out of my house. Like I thought it was cool, but I have no reason to be doing this, so I'm just going to get rid of it all. So I think that's where I'm at in that kind of third rung. Still very like white belt, white shirt, like very, very novice. But even breaking that down into different like chapters or, you know, milestones in my head, I think that's where I'm at. So I don't know how to predict the future too much more on that, but I think it would be interesting if we can do a weekly check-in of just like, if you challenge me to do a certain thing, and then I can show that footage, and then we can decide like, okay, like this challenge that you gave me of do a loop-de-loop crossover, whatever, like that was way too much for me to learn in 1 week. But learning like how to take off and then fly out and land back in the same spot, like that's probably where I'm at right now, as far as my skill goes. So
do you have anything that if you went to a park you could set up, like flags, or I don't even know what?
I have ideas of stuff that I could 3D print, so that would be a way of kind of bringing two hobbies in together. But I don't currently. I mean, like it could be anything, right? Like you could just use a piece of cardboard or whatever else. So it doesn't have to be super fancy. But just because I like to use my 3D printer, I'll probably 3D print some stuff to either land on or fly around or whatever else. But they do like sell gates and whatever else, but I don't think I need to invest in that yet.
So are those races like, I would say NASCAR. NASCAR is like a circle track always. They do some infield stuff every once in a while. In Blue Moon, they have different tracks. Is the drone racing more NASCAR or Formula One, where like every track is different, things are set up differently, they're testing and kind of pushing the drivers to the limit? Is it that kind of?
Yeah, I would say racing? It's way more Formula One, in the fact that even like the stuff that they use in the drone racing that I've seen, which is very little, they use stuff that not most actual like consumer drone pilots use. Like they use a 7-inch drone, I think, which basically they say like the only people who use 7-inch drones are the ones who are trying to do like the highest level of competitive flying. And they have other people can put LEDs on their drone, but like they have very specific type of LED, so you can actually like identify who's who, like, so that's completely like for the viewers and that kind of stuff.
Interesting. So at what tier of drones do you think you will be into? Because last week you said the smaller ones were called, I don't remember now, whoops.
Yeah.
Is that the classification for those smaller drones?
Yeah. The Cinewhoops are like the ones that are just big enough to carry like a what they call a naked GoPro, so a GoPro that's broken down to just be as lightweight as possible. And then I forget, it's not a micro whoop or something like that. Tiny whoops? Yeah, tiny whoop. Okay, all right. A tiny whoop is just ones that are like the ones that I have, the little B, that aren't necessarily flying around for any like videography reasons, but they're just small so you can like learn how to fly and mess around with.
So there's smaller drones than that?
There are. I know nothing about them though, and I don't see that many people actually using them. I think it's more for like the enthusiast who just want to make everything as small as possible.
I got you. You know what the most popular FPV drone is?
The most talked about one right now is probably that DJI one, which they might be discontinuing. I've heard rumors of. But I was recommended by 2 FPV pilots that I follow on Instagram and actually talk to, the Tiny Hawk 2, I believe. So I don't know if that's necessarily like the best one, but I got recommended that by 2 different people. So that was one I was going to look into. And that was the one I was planning on buying before I saw Mr. Steele selling his and just went with that one. But I've seen since then, looking at like the 3-inch drone space, I've seen a couple of more that I would probably buy before I even go bigger. One of them has like an HD camera and is pretty small, so I wouldn't have to buy a whole separate GoPro and all that kind of stuff. So that one would be interesting if I did want to do any like cinematic flying. And then the other one is a little bit bigger, and they say flies like those bigger 5-inch drones, but it's still a 3-inch size. So it just has like a little bit more aggressive motors and stuff on there. I should probably know the names of those off the top of my head, but I don't. So I was even invest in 2 smaller drones before I would jump up to the 5-inch drones. Just because, again, where I'm at right now, like I have no interest in going faster or more aggressive or really any of that stuff. Like I just want to keep it kind of on a smaller scale.
Yeah, I guess just determining what your goal is. And if your
Right.
goal is just to get better, then find a way to break that down and quantify where you're at and then what better means. I think doing it through the simulator is at least a starting point, because they have their own like star system. But if you're getting to a point where you're kind of hitting a wall, I guess it's what do you do then to bring back in the fun? Because this is a hobby. If you're hitting a wall on your hobby, I don't think you're going to be like, oh, I'm going to continue to do this until I improve. Because there's no like incentive for leveling up.
Right. And I think that's a huge part of me. For me, not only like just having the accountability of doing this show every week, so it's like, you know, something that I want to do and actually make time for, but also, like you're saying, like the challenges for me. I think this is something we said on a couple of podcasts ago, but like I am driven by problem solving. So if I don't have a problem to solve, then I'm just not going to do it or find it interesting even. That's somewhat of the wall that I hit with a 3D printer, although living in this new space now, like every weekend I'm modeling and printing stuff because I just find that entertaining. And there's more problems to solve, I guess, with it is what I'm talking about. So, but you know, there's only so many 3D printed like practical things you could have in your house before I don't know, your wife gets annoyed at you. So whoa.
Yeah, so I guess even in the drone simulator, what is it that you're attempting to accomplish in here?
Just not looking like a complete buffoon while we're talking. Pretty much is how I feel right now. So my goal for this week is to finish all the rest of the lessons, which I have just a couple those left. But like I said, I'm pretty bad at the moment still, so I really have to put in the time. So this intermediate pro mode, yeah, I'm at 9, so I have about 10 more of these. Your first race is where I'll I'm trying to get to by the end of this week. But you can see the stars.
So you did all
on
those
some of these.
beginner ones?
Yeah, I did actually all of them on stream, I think. I don't think I did any of these without being on stream. Maybe a couple.
So inside all those
on stream.
beginner ones, how many stars do you have? Do you have all 5 stars on those?
No.
So I think even these, where it says like learn to fly, beginning.
The
Sorry,
basics behind the goggles and then the Road to Pro, I think is what you're looking at.
Yeah, so behind the goggles is the second lesson? Oh, so you're flying that stuff around without even the goggles?
On this
basic?
Yeah, this first one, it's like unrealistic, like behind.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The drone. But even the drone that you're flying, like self-levels and is a lot different to fly than...
Oh, so it's almost like this Tello one that I have, essentially, is what you're doing there.
Yeah, closer to that.
It has less probably like self features, but it is all of that stuff. So this is roll, pitch, and all that other stuff that you're learning. It's like extreme basics.
Right.
I think you should have some type of checklist, because I think part of what we do as like people that love to learn is not giving ourselves enough credit. Like, you know enough of the basics, but there's a pretty big gap between like basically getting the drone up and being able to fly it anywhere to being able to fly it like very purposely. But I think having that as a checklist of like, oh, I do know how to take off, I do know how to hover, I do know how to...
That's true. I guess I could pat myself on the back a little bit for just like, I was interested in this hobby and I kind of pieced together some stuff that I thought would work, and it's all working for the most part. I did have to return like 2 things and get different stuff, but like I am actually able to get up and fly. Only 3-4 weeks, I forget how long it's been, maybe 5-6 weeks, but a couple of those I was getting married, so I'll give myself a break, say a month now.
Yeah, I think if you had a like belt to look at and be like, I did get here,
right,
but now I just need to continue
acknowledging that at least
level. Yeah.
And if we had laid that out from before, I think I'd feel a little bit better about like where I'm at right now. I'm just like, oh yeah, like I did accomplish the first 3 steps or whatever, rather than where I'm at right now, where I'm like, I'm hot garbage, because that's all.
I
I'm
don't think you know
about.
a next level where it's like, what you have enough of the... I think just like where I'm with this Tello, it's like I have enough of basics. What's the next thing that's going to challenge me? Except for you have a drone that you can go to manual mode and like go to a whole bunch of stuff, but there's no like progressive path. Now like everything is open up to you, so that's why I feel like hot garbage. Like you can take off, you can kind of maneuver it, but you don't have the full control that you want.
Right. No, that's a good way of looking at it, of just like, I have all the ability. So if we went back to like a sport analogy, like I have the soccer ball and I have the net, so now I just need to put in the time to learn how to get that soccer ball in the net, like aggressively or whatever. So I have all the tools that I need for the hobby. Now it's just strictly the skill. And I think that was like my frustration this week, is like, man, I was really hoping I could just pick this thing up and be good at it. But that is the part of the hobby that is actually intriguing to me, is that like, you know, not everyone who picks it up within the first couple of hours, even putting, I think I have 15 hours into the sim now, even putting that time into the simulator doesn't mean like I can hover and do like even the basic of stuff. So it's kind of one of those things like where you're watching someone do a sport on TV, like say baseball. Like baseball looks so easy, but if you actually like go to play baseball, you're like, oh, there is actually
someone throws that 97 mile
right. There's a lot of challenge to this, you know, and so just that realization of like, once you've done it yourself, then you can have a little bit more appreciation. So now when I'm watching people fly the drones, like especially chasing cars, it's like mind-blowing that they can like have so much control, and even like picking up on some of the stuff like, oh, this is where they just did that random loop that it just looked like they were doing it for fun, is actually like a timing thing to slow themselves down so they like pick back up. So I know there's a ton more that I have to learn, but at least starting to understand some of that stuff It is addictive for me, but I don't like feeling bad at something. So I mean, that's good just because it's driving me to actually put the time into this. So that, I think that's the fear of, if I don't start putting challenges in front of myself, like once I kind of get to whatever whatever I made up, like, oh, I feel good at this now, then I'll just stop because there's no more challenge. So finding those challenges to keep myself
I like this new challenging idea. I guess I can do some digging because, like I said, I feel extremely unknowledgeable about any of this stuff. Like even the terminology of the stuff, where it's like I don't even know how to give you an example in what you're doing other than relating it to something completely left field. Because it's like, oh, all you need to do is just do this maneuver. It's like hover. I don't know, pitch and yaw, I guess, just because I saw it on the video, but. I know there must be. I would look around. I'll do some searching. I'm assuming that before those guys race, they do some type of exercise. Just because I know that's how most pilots work. Like there's always like a pre-flight checklist, like you said. There's always like some type of thing that they're running through. You have to put in the hours to have that much confidence in it. Even when Uncle came over here, who's flying helicopters all the time, he showed me that video of a guy that was going out in Texas and crashed his helicopter. It was like, it just looked like a short video where the guy lost power and it fell, but the guy was able to like reverse rotor, there's a term for that, but then like save it from crashing. But Speedo was like looking at all the gauges and like checking the hand maneuvers and the feet. It was just like, because he's so versed in it, he picked up on way more than me. I just saw a guy take off, hear and then crash. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. But then he was like breaking it all down. So then when we did a flight in St. Pete, he was like telling the pilot all the different stuff, and she was super interested. And then they were going back and forth because they were both versed in all the lingo and everything. And I was like,
that's something I've always been jealous of, is just the lingo they have. Like, it's so cool to hear Speedo talk about, his passion, which is flying helicopters, with someone else who's passionate about. Like, it's like an instant friendship. Like,
I think I'm here to help you get started, but I think you really need to replace me with somebody that understands what the heck is going on. Because like, I can't really challenge you, but if somebody that knew how to fly or do drone, like they could challenge you to go, oh, this week you need to do this. And like, even from you flying around in the simulator, they'd be able to tell you, oh, you need to work on your
turning,
pitching and yawing and
at the same time.
Or your throttle control, or the terminology that you would semi-understand, or just be able to ask them, like, what do you mean? And it would be a lot more beneficial to you. So I'm very willing to give you challenges, attempt to do some research to make it a little bit more understandable when I'm like saying things to you, or I'm like, okay, try this, test this, or here are some things that I found from the internet. Let's at least try that as a starting point. But I really think you pairing up with somebody that actually has some experience will make this a lot more, I think, enjoyable all the way around. More enjoyable for you, more enjoyable for people watching. It would just be like a lot better than just two dummies,
white shirts.
Talking about stuff they have no idea. Like, who would be interested in this? No, like I wouldn't even be interested in watching this, because I'm like, okay, these two guys who don't know anything are talking about stuff they have no idea.
This is more for if I do get good.
I understand why we're doing it.
Started, like, I knew absolutely nothing.
I just think to progress, it needs to go to the next level. I'm very willing to continue to challenge you, but I would challenge you to start looking and seeing if there's another person that would come on here.
There are a ton of
or anything else.
There are a ton of pilots. So I'm even thinking like those guys on Instagram who have just been so open with their time. Like, I wonder if I could just pull them in and be like, hey, would you be willing to just tell me that I suck, or what I suck at, and how to get better? Or just ask them
for their challenges. What do you do for pre-flight? What do you do? Like, and then you can say, oh, this is this person's.
No, that's something I could do right now, actually, is just ask them, like, hey, I got the drone, I did all this stuff, like, how can I progress?
Improve. I feel like I hit a wall. Just tell them where you're at. I think if you're open and honest with them, I think it gets a lot more enjoyable for you, and it's a conversation that you can have. And then you go, oh, I would love to have this conversation on this live call that I do. I do it once with my brother. Nobody watches and nobody can. But it would be more exciting with you if you jump on here, because I'm thinking about doing this consistently, or doing a podcast or whatever.
Yeah. Just like, even if it was like once a quarter, they would check in or whatever. Would be pretty interesting. All right, cool. I like it. I don't know how enjoyable watching me fly around these shipping container mover things is, but
Ooh, this could be something that, as an outsider, I could do. Like if you learn something and did it, and if your true goal is to like share the experience with other people, I could have my own rating system and go, this is boring or this is exciting, like from a complete outsider's perspective. Because if that's what you're trying to do is get people that are not like super entrenched in it
right
to be into it.
No, that actually makes sense.
When Speedo showed me that crash, I was into it. It was entertaining, but it wasn't like anything that I could have a conversation with him after. It was an enjoyable thing to watch, to see that a guy saved it and saved 3 other people that were in the helicopter because of what he was doing. Now I have no idea what he did, but it obviously did something to save them.
Right.
So that clip was enjoyable. So if you did like this, where you're like, okay, I'm gonna fly for 2 minutes, and you tell me, give me a rating, boring, exciting.
Just from a complete
that rating.
Viewer.
What belt are you? Black? Boring.
No, I think that's true with a lot of stuff, right? Like, if we go back to MMA, like, when you're watching MMA, like, there are fighters who are just fun to watch, and then there are fighters, like Khabib, who's just like, oh my god, he's just leaning on somebody inside the cage. But, like, if you can know what he's doing, that's like, oh, like, this dude is a for real monster.
Yes. Yeah, because I like watching him because I do understand.
Yeah, and I don't, because I don't understand anything. So I'm just like, I don't want to watch him.
Even when I'm telling you to watch fights,
ground.
You're like, that was super boring. Like, who cares about this? I think I can do that for you, where it's like, okay, let me see it. Yeah, that's boring. As an outsider, that doesn't make any sense. But there is a fight that just went on. I don't know if you're going to be able to go back and watch it, but Francis Ngannou.
He fought again?
Yeah, they had their fight.
Who was he fighting?
Knocked him out. The champion, or old champion because he lost, Stipe Miocic.
Oh, okay. I've heard
that was a really
good
fight. There was a couple of good fights on that card. I normally don't tell you about them because I'm like, these matchups might not be that good, because the last time there was a lot of like I know you don't like the wrestling, so it's like,
well, I used to live with 2 roommates who were super into it and like actually did some martial arts, so I would come downstairs and watch with them when they started screaming. So that was how I knew what fights were good. But since I don't live with them anymore, I've been really out of the loop on the MMA stuff.
Yeah, so I guess even if you're able to reach out to those Instagram guys and just say, my goal is to get friends of mine who are not into it just excited about it or interested in it. What type of maneuvers, what type of videos, like just pick their brain on like multiple levels, just so that you can share that information with me, and then I go, okay, this is from my perspective what I think, and sharing XYZ. Right. But I do think challenging yourself is definitely the right direction to move in.
Right. Ooh, almost had him. All right, let's stop flopping there. I think that's a good place to end the show. I think we talked this idea through a good amount of just like, let's find some challenges, and let's, even looking backwards, like, what are the steps that I took to get to where I'm at, which actually might be a good first video, so something to think about. And then what are the steps that I want to take in future to make sure that I'm progressing and actually pursuing this thing. So lesson learned this week: figure out how to manage file data, or data a little bit better. But hopefully next week I'll either buy a new card or try to fix the 2 that I have, and then I'll just pick some challenges. I think
it's probably more enjoyable to watch from the outside perspective. So like, when you had your phone, okay, I think so, because it's
I still didn't pull
hard
those clips.
to really understand what is happening from an outside perspective. But if I could see the thing flying around, then I can wrap my head around like, oh, he's hovering. Because if you're hovering in the first person perspective,
it's just like a still camera,
like it's sitting there. Yeah, it's not like
you don't understand.
There's no like perception of what's truly happening. So I think even when you do a flip, it's like I can piece it together in my head, but it would look a lot more entertaining if I saw the thing actually do the action.
Okay. That's something to think about, and that'd be easier for me as far as files go, to just record on the phone and then upload that stuff or figure out.
Because you were challenging yourself to fly from the bed to, or from the ottoman to the bed.
Yeah.
Like, I think, yes, a few clips of you inside first-person view are semi-entertaining, but what would be a lot more entertaining is like seeing that thing take off, seeing how high you take off, seeing how far you actually go, seeing like what angles you're taking. Because I can see numbers on the first person, but like none of those numbers mean anything to me.
Yeah, or me watching at this point. No, I like that. The goal, I guess, would be to do both, and then either play them at the same time or play one after the other.
Yes.
But that is something
or capture the success of it, or something that's interesting that happened during. Then you can kind of see it.
Right. All right. Cool. So we'll set that as a challenge for this week. Is just fly in a straight line. But have at least the files sorted in a way where I can share them next week. And if I'm feeling real fancy and confident in myself and I've got everything figured out, my real goal, something that I want to be able to do, is just to start flying from one place, fly around a little bit, and then land in the same spot that I took off from. I don't know if that's a 6-inch area or a 6-foot area, but that will be a milestone in my own head. That's something that I just came up with, where like, yeah, I want to be able to do that. So that, I think, will be, if I'm feeling good about myself, we'll try to do that by next week.
Yeah, and I would assume there are people that teach how to drone fly. I wonder if they have like a syllabus of just like how they do it. Just like you said, you're not necessarily going to be like a racer, but if you looked at like how to be a racer and just see like the things that they require in there, then you could like piece together your own like how to have fun with a drone.
Right. No, that would definitely speed up the learning. It's funny, like I haven't even considered that yet, just because of the level I'm at. Like I think that would, I was gonna say, be more frustrating, but maybe like even information overload. It's not even like, oh man, I wish I could do that. It's just like I still have like such a low understanding that I want to raise it a little bit before I even watch like some of those videos, because I know they're probably going to be like, I don't know, maybe there are from like your very first hour of flying videos or teaching out there, but like in my head I want to like start watching a little bit after that, because I think part of it is just like the actual mechanics of like getting up in the air and like, you know, knowing your own setup well enough to do that, and then the other part of it is like the like knowing how to use the sticks properly and all that kind of stuff when you're actually going to do certain maneuvers. So
I guess that's another thing I could probably do a little bit better job of, is like when you feel frustrated, try to break down what the frustration is. And is it
I think in the challenge
to learn more, or because you're saying more stick time, but it's like, why do you feel like you are crappy? Because you have come a long way from not being able to like make the thing go straight to where you're at now, but there is definitely a frustration in it. And I think what you said is true. Like the frustration keeps you going. Because I think that's what it is. I feel like I kind of mastered the thing, that there was more frustration. It was just like, okay, what's next? And I don't have a challenging piece to challenge me. So it's like the difference between feeling like you kind of plateaued, re-challenging yourself, and going through something where you're just feeling like it's too challenging or you don't have a new direction. I think that's really what it is. You don't have a path. And I think that's what happens most of the time when you don't have a clear goal. Is
especially
like
for a hobby. Yeah, like we've always done businesses, so it's like we can kind of every week come up with like, okay, what are we doing this week for the business? But for a hobby where it's like completely open-ended, it's just like, it's a little daunting just to have free time.
And maybe that's where you can come at it from, like the Instagram people and stuff too, is just like, this is a hobby, but I'm having a hard time like challenging myself. What do you suggest?
Right.
And just see what they say.
No, yeah,
I would be interested in like if they do pre-practice things before they like shoot a video or whatever they do. I could assume they did something.
Right. No, something to ask and learn. So shoot off a couple of messages, see what I get back next Monday, and then also try to fly and actually get some footage next week.
You know what you can do right now for me?
What's up?
Start a doc and put this on the doc, because I'm gonna forget 1,000%.
Okay, I actually have one started, so I'll just add this stuff.
Can you screen share it? And
I'll do it after, because I want to organize it a certain way. I can start it, and then next week I'll show kind of where we're at.
Okay.
How's that? All right.
That's much better for me, because then I can go, oh, I saw it, instead of just like trying to remember. Nathaniel said he was going to challenge himself, and I said some good things, and he said some good things, and then next week comes
for
and I
the
go,
record,
what did you talk
I'll
about?
say it here. I'm going to try and shoot off some questions to the Instagram people, all the stuff that Steven said, just people that are following on Instagram, see if they can even get back to me, and then record me flying. I'm going to try and take off in one spot and land in the same spot. I'll feel real good if I can do that by end of week. So those will be the 2 challenges for this week. But
and I know you're trying to lend us, but another thing to start with is you should ask the audience to challenge you. Because like I said, I can't really challenge you because I don't know anything, but this should be a call to anybody that watches the live. Is like, I want you guys to challenge me.
Some kind of rating system, at least, to say, like,
Yes.
Was this interesting or was it not, before we get user-submitted challenges.
Okay. But I think that would be a more enjoyable content piece. Is like,
Yeah, I
get
like
the
that.
audience involved in challenging you, and then they will tell you, hey, go here and try this, and then you could do that. Because like I said,
Right.
my challenges are going to be very novice because I have no understanding of anything. But at least if you take information from somebody that knows a little something, they could give you a better challenge.
Until we get a bigger audience, I just clicked in my head, like, something I did with graphic design when I was learning like Photoshop was just to imitate what other good graphic artists were doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be a way. Even if you saw a cool clip, you could be like, hey, can you learn how to do this? Definitely
I got
not
the challenge for
now.
you. That bowling alley.
Yeah, definitely not now. But in a month or two, if you like see something, you're like, hey, I saw this like cool trick that this dude did in this clip, and then you show it to me, and then I have a week to learn how to do that. I don't know quite how the progression of like your pilot skill goes, because it might just get to a point where it's like going to take me one try to do something that you're showing me, but maybe not. So that could be something interesting too, or that might even be easier for users, like people who don't know FPV. Like if you guys see something that you would be like, hey Nate, I challenge you to learning this, and then I could kind of like follow my path, like, oh, okay, this is actually like 3 parts to this trick that I have to learn, so I'm going to practice the first one, and then so on and so on. So it could be kind of cool.
I think another thing is to like look at extreme sports and see what kind of stuff they do. As like the half pipe was a very specific thing to do with a skateboard, and then they brought bikes and everything else kind of to that level. But just like basketball where you play horse, is there anybody in the FPF space that's like 1 versus 1, where they do like a horse type of competition where it's like they're gonna fly around and in and out and then up and over in a certain way, and then the other person's going to do the same thing, and then
that's
the
kind
next
of
person
cool.
challenges it to like, I'm going to fly in and out of this, but then I'm going to do I wish I knew some terminology. This just sounded bad. A flip.
Kick flip.
While I do, I'll start using a McFlurry. If you did like 50, a McFlurry off the, like the old McDonald's commercial, I'm going to shoot it off the window, off the back, dude, back off the backboard, swoosh, like call your shot and then do it. Might be another like challenging thing that you could do. I think there's a lot of opportunities in this, but I do think if you take on this challenge perspective.
No, I love seeing where these ideas are getting planted and like just the seeds of these ideas. This might not turn into anything. We might drop this by next week, but I think it would be cool to have it on camera where it's like, oh, this is like the exact moment where we realized we could do, user submitted challenges via videos of other people's stuff or whatever.
Well, those guys are playing tag and making millions of dollars for starting that tag competition.
There's so many sports that I'm learning about that I'm just
I
like,
just don't
how
think
is
that
that
drone racing is the thing, man. It's so boring. Like, it's just...
From a user, or from a viewer, it's like, even me as someone who's interested in drone flying, like I think I watched one like race.
I watched more professional tag than I watched drone racing. But at least with the tag, it's like it's so simple to wrap your head around. It's just a small box with certain
It's an easy
obstacles.
viewing experience.
Yeah, and it's like you're it, and you're trying to tag him.
Right.
Perfect. Now I see him jumping and doing all the maneuvers. Then I can hear people call out that stuff.
Yeah,
like,
the drone racing is like
exciting and
not
entertaining.
obtainable, and it's like hard to view. Which I heard if you go to them in person and you have your own headset, then you can actually like watch the actual thing, which
I
seems
feel like that would make me sick.
that seems cooler to me at least. Like I might actually go to one and check it out, but I don't see myself finding that super enjoyable. As I said, I have no interest in it
really
right now.
challenge yourself is to find something that would make it enjoyable for the average person to view and enjoy and appreciate, and then turn that into a game. I think if you can gamify this like processing of you learning and like do checklists.
I think the horse thing is pretty cool. There's a lot of like horse type challenges that people like watching. Like this person can do it, can you? I feel like we're not the first person to have that idea, so I'm sure.
I've never seen it in the drone stuff, but I don't.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Really power through all the drone stuff, but it would be interesting even like the different drones versus each other, because they have a lot of those this drone versus this drone, and they're all like super technical. Where it's like this
that's what I was thinking.
4.45 pictures, and this one takes. It's like I don't give a like, I don't care. But if you were flying that Maverick and that Mini through different situations, then I'd be like, oh, that's interesting. I can watch that.
A less technical, more viewer-friendly experience. That's kind of the way it's going. Like, drones are becoming more popular because some of the bigger companies are getting into it and more people are understanding like that this is a different branch of just drone flying. So making it interesting just for viewers would be, because that's just another way of saying like I want to make it something that I can share with people. It's just like, how do I make this interesting for viewers, not necessarily for people who are deep in FPV.
Is there like fighter pilot programs that you can like fake shoot another drone and then make that drone like stall out? Or
you're getting way too deep on me now.
Okay.
I think for this week, that's a good place to stop before we create a whole video game.
Next week, I need you to get with some programmers and program a software where in my own goggles, I can see me shooting at another drone and that drone responds to what I see on my screen.
There are definitely good ideas there.
Like that? Well, I guess those would be just like regular.
All right, I'm cutting you off. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully someone...
And if you steal any of these ideas, I'm suing everybody.
Hopefully there's someone who's watching who enjoys it. If you want to steal our ideas, go for it. That's fine. But yeah, this has been a fun journey for me. I think these are a fun log to watch and just be able to track our progress. So this week, my confidence as a pilot is very, very low. Hopefully next week, I'll have some video to show you guys and boost that confidence a little bit. And then we can get into these cool challenges that we're
should have stats
dreaming
like
up.
a video game character.
Little
like
bar. My XP bar is at like 1 out of 1 million.
I'll have to look for like the Street Fighter character stat bars, and then we'll just edit that into the videos.
Oh my gosh. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I will catch you next week, so Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you have any questions about the gear that I've bought or how I actually got up and flying with this Beta FPV controller, it was pretty simple. I definitely think that's the best $40 you can spend if you're at all interested in FPV. That paired with the simulator I think is an amazing jump off point. This is from someone who's only been doing it for a month though, so take my word with some caution. But yeah, if you want to check any of that stuff out, it's down in the description. A like on this video always helps and all that great stuff, but this is more for my own catalog in the future. So if you enjoyed this, thank you so much for sticking with me. But until next time, Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.